Good afternoon again, and welcome to our EtherHaul 7xx Extended Options webinar. My name is Shimon Hochbaum. I'm the Director of Product Line Management, and I will be your host for this webinar. Uh, We are recording this session, so if anybody joins late or has to leave early, you will get a link to this recording in a few days. Let me also tell you that you can ask any questions via the GoToWebinar tool. There's the question bar somewhere on your right. Feel free to ask questions when you can. I will be monitoring the questions during the webinar, and I will try to answer during the presentation. We also have a Q&A session toward the end of the webinar, so that should be very simple. And if I cannot answer your questions because we would run out of time or for some other reason, we will also publish the complete list of questions and answers in writing together with the recording in a few days. So with this, let's get started. Our agenda is pretty simple. We are going to start with an overview of the EtherHaul 100 series. Then we will go in details on the EtherHaul 7xx product line itself. We will continue with a Q&A, and we will close. Before we start, in order for me to maybe know a little better who is in the audience, I'd like to start with a small poll so that if needed, I can tweak the content a little better. So here is the first poll. It should be showing up on your screen now. Basically trying to understand the kind of organization that you belong or represent. You can select any of the answer that is most suited to you. I'll leave the poll open for about half a minute, leaving hopefully everybody enough time to select what they need. And then I'll share the results. Okay, I see that a lot of the people have already voted. Thank you. I'll just wait another 10-15 seconds for everybody to finish their vote. Okay, so I've closed. Thank you for everybody who responded. We have a good majority of the audience represent or are system integrators. Then we have about a quarter who are service providers and about the same quarter who are wireless service providers. So good to know that we have representation of a lot of the audience. And with that, let's get started with the actual presentation. So everybody here may be familiar with the EtherHaul 100 series. That's a choice of V-band license-exempt radios or E-band lightly licensed in most of the countries. All of the radios are TDD and can offer capacities up to 1 gigabit. Depending on whether you work in V-band or E-band, you have options for street level or rooftop deployment. In the V-band, we have basically a very compact radio, the EH500 600 series, which operate in the 57 to 64 gigahertz for most everybody. Some countries have already opened up additional spectrums all the way to 66 or even 71 gigahertz, and we have solutions available, but that is not the topic of the discussion today. Just stay tuned for the discussions of these additional products. In the E-band, we have the 7XX with its integrated antenna, so the same compact form factor as the 600 series has been available already for about a year now in most of the markets, again, regulation and homologation dependence. And then we have the older EH1200 TX series, which is a larger radio and that can work with 1 foot and 2 feet antennas most of the time. So what we are doing today, we are actually talking about the added options in the 7XX family, which is basically we are now adding options for 1 foot and 2 feet antennas. So that basically allows to take a very well received compact radio, which was limited so far with an option for a half a foot antenna and therefore a reduced gain. And now we can take advantage of the larger antennas available from Siklu, the 1 foot and the 2 feet antenna, for the same compact radio. So we hope that this will open for additional options in the E-band compact form factor radios. So what does it mean for the 7XX family? We have again the compact radio, which some of you may know. It's about 6.5 inch, so 17 centimeters high and wide. It comes in two variants: the 700TX, which has a base capacity of 100 meg and can be license upgraded to 200 megabits. That's aggregate. So, and then we have the 710TX, which ships out of factory with a base capacity of 700 megabit and can be upgraded with a license capacity license upgrade to 1,000 megabit. Again, these capacities are all aggregate, so you can run 50-50 up and down, or you can split the ratio 75-25, depending on which way you would like. In terms of radio, the radio on the 7XX is equivalent in many aspects to the 1200TX. So it has the same number of modulations. The 700TX is a little bit limited. The 710TX has the same radio as the 1200TX. On the other hand, the hardware platform shares a lot of form factors and features with the 600 series. So for example, the power is going to be power over Ethernet into the radio on ETH1. It has a similar built-in Ethernet switch with 3 gigabit Ethernet ports, RJ45, copper only. And this Ethernet switch has on 2 ports can do power over Ethernet out of the switch for a total combined power of 52 watts. That's and there also you have a number of options. You can select 26 watts shared between ETH2 and 3, or you can go in high power on ETH2 43 watts and 30 watts on ETH3, or you can go 52 watts out of ETH2 and nothing on ETH3. So that allows accommodating different load scenarios, whether you have PTZ cameras or Wi-Fi access points, and more than one of these devices can be powered directly off the switch of the 7XX family. That's applicable to the 700TX or the 710TX. In order to utilize um, the PoE, there is a feature upgrade that needs to be acquired as well. Otherwise, we have a very consistent experience with the 1200TX. So if you know how to deploy and install a 1200TX, with the large antenna, with the 1-foot antenna needs a 1-foot mounting kit, the 2-foot antenna, as we can see here on the chart, does not need anything because the mounting kit is built into the antenna. So it's the same antenna that for the 1200TX will work here. Just a word of caution, for the 2-foot antenna, there is a need of a special RF adapter which needs to be purchased separately. It's installed between the RF antenna, between the 2-foot antenna and the radio. Sorry that the chart here does not let us see that detail. Again, deployment and installation are very much similar with 1200TX. In terms of operations, if you have already operated the 1200TX or a 600 series ODU and you know the web GUI, the CLI, SNMP, syslog radius, TACAX, all these support options are exactly the same. In terms of capacity, we talked about that on the previous slide. There is an AES option, there is the extend overbuild feature, which is available on the 700TX as well. Anything that we do for the EtherHaul radios at large, we try to be consistent across the portfolio, and you have the same features here. And actually, that's a very good time to talk about something that we did recently with 7.6 software release for the EtherHaul family. We added the option for everybody to basically try any of the software features for 30 days. So if you want to try the extend if you want to try the additional capacity, if you want to find the layer 2 features, any feature that you want to try and see how they would work for you, how they would work for your network, you can try any feature independently of the others without purchasing the license for it for a total of 30 days. And if after a week or two you decide that it's going to not work for you, you can just cancel the feature. If on the contrary you decide that it's going to work, then you can purchase the software license, put it on the radio, and the additional features will remain available for any amount of time that the radio is powered on, basically. However, if you did not purchase the license, after 30 days, the radio will basically shut down that feature and will revert to operation without the features for which there is no license. There is no valid software license file on the radio. So that's available with software release 7.6, sorry. You can check more details on the user manual. You can check more detail on the release note. All of those are available on our portal. So let's now look at the details of the part numbers for the 7XX families. As you can see here, we have now two new part numbers. Some of you might have seen the 710TX ODU PoE, for example, in the past. And now you have a 710TX ODU EXT. So that's the model of the 710TX without antenna, which has basically just the antenna port, and then can be attached to the 1-foot or the 2-foot antenna. Can also be attached to a half-a-foot antenna as well. we are going to release an update of the price list so that all this would be clear. You have then all the software upgrade package which are listed here, from the capacity to the feature, all the way to the PoE. You have the choice of antenna, the 1-foot antenna, the mounting kit, the 2-foot antenna, and the small adapter that I mentioned to you to be installed between the 7XX radios and the 2-foot antenna, if that is what you want to deploy. And just for completeness, you have the third protector and the 60-watt AC PoE. So there's a mistake here. It should have been EU or UK, depending on which version of where you are outside of the US. Remember again that this 60-watt injector is great for up to 60 watt of power draw from the 7XX. If you want to go full 52 watt on power out on the radio, you need to purchase a 90 watt, 90 or 95 watt PoE. We have some models which can do 95 watts. They are already on our price book because the 600 uses the same type of PoEs. And if you have some other PoEs that you like to work with or from your own, you can use those as well. So what do we have in terms of support package for the 7XX? We have a data sheet, we have an installation manual, we have a user manual, we have a product description which goes together with the generic system description. All those are available on our partners portal. It's partner.secro.com. You can log in, and if you don't have a login, you have an option there to request for a login. Our support team will do that with a very quick turnaround. But all the information is already posted on our portal. Additional tools that we have the link budget calculator, lbc.secro.com, which allows you to calculate basically availability or reliability of the bandwidth in the country or in the city where your links are going to be deployed. You can check from the 16 centimeter to the 60 centimeter, 16 to 60, including the 30 centimeter antenna options. So you select the antenna size that you want to deploy. If the link availability matches your target, no need to do anything more. If not, you can change one of the two radios to the larger antenna and see if it solved the solution. You do not need to go symmetric. You can have a small antenna on one side and a large antenna on the other side. That's actually a very neat option that some of us have deployed for the case where you want to go E-band compact to the street, but the link is a little longer, and you want the 2-foot antenna on the roof on the other side. And then we also have our wireless network design engine, Windy, which is also able to create networks and bill of materials with the 7XX and the antenna of choice that you would like to utilize. So it's a little bit tricky, when we think maybe about all these different options. We have, the 600, 500 TX ODUs. We have the 7XX series of ODUs. We have the 1200 series of ODUs. What is going to work for everybody? And the way I try to look at it is the following. Hopefully that will allow you also to decide what is going to work in your respective market. So obviously the main difference between all these is E-band versus V-band. In most of the markets, V-band is license exempt. And in most of the market, E-band is licensed, lightly licensed, maybe heavily licensed, but it's licensed, it's registered. It means that when you deploy radios, or when you register your links, somebody may be aware. If it's not a concern, then it's not a concern. If you want to fly under the radar and not be seen, look for the 600. If on the other hand, you might not care and you prefer the additional reach, as you can see, the range of the 700, 1200 is better than the 600 family. Then if the range is important, you should be looking at one of those. Then you might have also additional concerns with the amount of ports. If, for example, 4 ports are important and not 3, then the 1200 would be it. However, if you want to actually do 3 copper ports, then the 7XX or the 600 are going to be better because they work with 3 RJ45 ports out of the box. The 1200TX has 2 copper ports. If you want to do a third one, you would need to purchase an SFP with RJ45. They are available, but they are not as common as the optical ones. On the other hand, if a fiber port is important, then you might have no choice and stick to the 1200TX. Again, other options, you have a DC power into the ODU is available right for the 1200TX. If you absolutely need a DC for the 7XX or the 600TX, we have an accessory for that where you can plug a DC feed directly into an RJ45 adapter basically and go into ETH1, but that kind of takes out of use the first port. If that is again critical, we have an additional accessory which can solve that problem, but can be a little bit overwhelming. And on the other hand, if PoE out of the radio is very important, the 7XX, the 600 perform a lot better. So if you have additional devices which have to be powered from the ODU, the 1200TX has a single port, the 7XX 600 have 2 ports, more power. So I've tried to show here on the chart basically what are the features which are going to be which are going to allow you to make decisions for your applications or for your customers, those of you who are system integrators. So if I try to summarize all what we discussed today, the EtherHaul 100 series is now a lot more complete. We have V-band or E-band. We have rooftop and street level options. We have a choice of antenna from half a foot all the way to 2 feet for the small and for the large ODUs. We have a choice of ports and choice of features. For example, 3 or 4 ports, copper or fiber. PoE out, 26 or 52 watts are available. And we have a range which is available now for the different ODUs, the compact or the large one, all the way to 3.7 kilometers with a 2 feet antenna. So we've basically tried to make more options available in the 100 series with this, allowing the additional antenna form factors on the 700 series. So I hope that will help everybody. I'll turn over to the Q&A pretty soon, but before we go there, in order for you to maybe think about what is important, I'd like to show an additional pole and try to see where you think the 7XX with its extended options now is going to be important. So the poll is available for everybody. We'll take a few minutes to see, sorry, 1 minute to see what is going to be important in terms of options for everybody. See that almost half of the attendance has voted already. I'll let it go for another 20-30 seconds for everybody else to complete their vote. Okay, I think all the responses are in. Thank you very much. I'm trying to share the results on the chart, on the screen here, sorry, for everybody to see. So we have seems that the feature which interests everybody most is the compact size and extended reach. Now that we have a choice of antenna from 0.5 foot, 1 foot, and 2 feet, which allows basically a combination of street level deployment, with an extended reach, because we have now an option to balance for a large antenna on the other side. The integrated switch and the power of Ethernet out are of some attraction, but not as much as the other feature. Thank you very much. So I'll turn over now to back to the Q&A session. I'll look at anything that has been asked. Give everybody 10 or 15 seconds for me to look at what has already been asked, and for anybody who might have a new question to send it now in the question. For those who are looking at how to do that, there's a questions tool on your GoToWebinar tool console, sorry, and feel free to ask there anything that you would like. So I see the first question is about the AES. Yes, so just like all of our radios in the 100 series have supported AES so far. AES is available also on the 7XX. The fact that we add antennas or antenna options does not change anything. I think here the next question is about compatibility. Actually, two questions along the compatibility issues. So the first one is about can we have a link which has basically different antenna sizes on the two sides. So I have a 710 TX maybe with a 16 centimeter antenna on one side, perhaps down the street, I would guess, and then a 1 foot or a 2 feet antenna on the other side, apparently on a building, and therefore making up for a longer reach or better availability of the link. So yes, obviously these are possible. On the 1200 TX, we can have a 1 foot or a 2 feet antenna on the different link ends, and the same applies for the 7XX family. So you can have a small antenna and a larger antenna on the other side. That is not a problem. The other half of the question was if the radio performance is similar, can the 7XX interoperate with the 1200TX? And the question is no, they cannot. I mean, you might see something which will lead you to think that it can work, because I said the radio performance is the same. Honestly, if you try to do a link alignment, you will probably be successful, but that's going to be the extent. The web GUI, the switches, one is 3-port, the other one is 4-port, so that's going to be a little bit challenging to operate a link, and we could not find an easy way to make that happen. So sorry, but basically 7XX will work 700 with 700, 710 with 710, and will not interoperate with the 1200TX in any way or shape. Okay, I see more questions are coming here. Okay. So a very interesting question here, which is asked from time to time. Is it possible to use these radios, the 7XX, through Windows? So the answer is yes and no. Sorry about the confusion here. Basically, glass in itself is not too much of a challenge, and it will attenuate a link for 1 or 2 dBs depending on the thickness of the glass. And if it's only glass, that's basically all what happens. However, some windows have additional layers for UV protection or reflection of sunlight and other kind of treatments added to the window surface. And in some cases, this kind of layer is non-transparent to millimeter wave. It can be metallic, it can be other type of material, difficult to know in advance because the window vendors are not always sharing their trade secrets on how they make these very special windows. I can tell you that we have a number of partners that have deployed radios, from within the office, shooting all the way to another building on the outside, for a number of reasons. One of them was waiting for their service provider to bring the gig into the office, and the service provider reneged on their commitment. They wanted to start operating their new offices. They turned to one of our wireless service providers partners that was basically just came in with one of these radios behind the window, shoot to one of the rooftops on the other side of the town where they had already location, and basically the new office was up and running the next day, and made everybody very happy. So it all depends on the kind of window and window treatment that is there. Unfortunately, I cannot give a clearer answer. There is another question here about can the radio be at the same time compact and perform an extended reach? So the size of the radio in itself does not tell us a whole lot about the reach or the range that it can go for. What really matters is the amount of power that the radio can deliver to the antenna, and the sensitivity of the modem on the other side, and obviously the size of the antenna. So actually, in order for these compact radios to go for extended ranges, we thought that operate installing these radios with a 1 foot or 2 feet antenna gives a lot more reach. Just to compare, the 16 centimeter antenna is about 38 dBi of gain, and the dB of gains. The 1 foot antenna is 43 dB of gains, and the 2 feet antenna, the 60 centimeter antenna, is 50 dB of gains. So you have a choice of basically 38, 43, 50. That's basically adding, and if you do that on the two sides, you're adding 10 or 20, almost 20 dB of gains there. That improves the range or the availability of the link a whole lot, depending on where you operate. Looking here for the other options that are coming through the funnel. I think somebody was probably on the PoE options. So on the 7XX radios, there are the power to the radio is PoE into ETH1. If you do not intend to utilize any of the power of Ethernet out of this radio, then all it needs is 26 watts to 26 watts, and many Ethernet switches which are compliant with 802.3 AT will deliver 26 watts of power. That's very simple. We have a range of power injectors which are available for 60 watts as well. If you want to start taking advantage of the built-in PoE out on ETH2 and 3, PoE PSE option, then you need to do two things. First of all, you need to add the license to operate that capability, and then you need also the power source into the radio to deliver the 26 watts for the radio and whatever is necessary for the equipment connected to the radio. So if it's a Wi-Fi access point, it's probably in the range of 10 to maybe 50 watts. That's not a whole lot. And again, the 60 watt injector will do well. If you want to go all the way to 52 watt of power out of the radio, then again, it's 52 and 26. That's 90 watt of power. We have our own 95 watt, injectors, which are available on our price book, and you can utilize any of those. If you have your own, which are either passive injectors or PoE standard compliant, they will work well, and you should have no problems taking advantage of this 52 watt power, regulated power out of the 700 series. Okay, I see that there are no more questions. I thank everybody for joining our webinar today. I hope you like these newer product options that we have now in the 7XX families. For those who are interested, your distributors have already the price list for the 7XX EXT versions, so the 7XX without antennas, and all of the other products, the 1 foot, 2 feet mounting kits, etc., are the same prices as you might have been familiar with. Thanks again, and hopefully talk to you soon in one of our next webinars. Bye bye now. Have a good rest of the day.